Hello, my name is Alana, and I'm going to give you a quick tour of our scheduling software, WhenToWork.com. I'm going to go ahead and sign in here in the right-hand corner. Now, before you are able to sign in with your user ID, you will receive an email from your manager through WhenToWork that will give you directions on how to create your username and password. I always recommend that you save it. That's just me, not required though. I'm going to sign in. And this brings us to our home page. There's different tabs across the top as well as down the center here on your home page are different areas that you can click on to help you. There's also a place for new messages. So you can click on this and see that Jamie sent a message that the time change was this weekend, so I could click on that and see what he has to say. And then there is also a place under here when there is a new bulletin entry that will show up. There's also other information like my next shift, some good old Bible for us to read and remember. Let's go ahead and go to the schedule tab. Here on the scheduling tab, you can see your schedule for the week and also all of the weeks that have been published. So I'm not scheduled for shifts this week, but next week I am scheduled for a shift. And you have different options you're able to do by the week, by your month, by upcoming. You can even look at everybody who's going to be on. You can look at that. It shows me who's going to be working. Also by the week, if I wanted to do that. One of the things that's very helpful when you look at your schedule is to actually click on the time that you're scheduled. And it will bring up a lot of the details about that shift, especially if there's any notes from your managers or your trainers, and they'll leave that here in the details or the description. And so it's very good to look at this and see what is going on. Here, you're also able to add your shift to the trade board or check the availability of other employees. So if you check the availability for my shift, I could see, okay, I can't make it to the shifts, so maybe Jamie, Brenda, or John would be able to cover for me. And then I could also add it to the trade board here, and I could choose if I wanted to trade my shift, drop it, or I could do either. It also is sometimes nice to have a comment there. Next, we're going to look at the info tab. This is where you give your information and set up your email and text preferences. It's nice to go ahead and set up the email and text to make sure you don't miss any shifts or announcements from your manager. There are clear instructions on how to do this, and make sure you read it carefully. I found that text alerts are especially helpful. You will just have to make sure the correct text address is in for your number and your provider. There's a list if you're unsure where you should be. You just would click here, and you can go through and edit your email and your text. I have different things that come from me, different preferences here. You can choose what you decide, what you desire to be emailed and what you desire to be texted. Texting and email is not required, but it is also very helpful so you don't miss anything. Next, we're going to look at the preference tab. Preferences is very important. There are clear instructions again how to set up your preferences. This is where you're able to let your manager know if you want to work, if you cannot work, or if you dislike working. As you can see, I have times when I cannot work. It is important to note that only your manager can set for sure cannot work times. So you will need to email your manager. It is a must to email your manager the correct information. Your preferences are for routine times. However, if you need to go out of town, you'll need to take advantage of the next tab here, which is the time off tab. Again, there are directions for you to follow and to request time off. A request definitely needs a comment. I have seen requests denied for lack of a comment. it is important to put that in there because for the most part, time off is going to come on a first come, first served basis. So as soon as you know of a conflict where you are requesting not to be scheduled at all, example would be like a wedding or a family vacation, you submit the time off request. Because we are a service department, please keep in mind you may not always get your request approved. For example, when Christmas fell on a Sunday, everyone cannot be granted the day off. Your manager always desires to give everyone the time that they need. However, there are times that you may have to sacrifice due to the nature of your job. The best thing to keep in mind is just to get your request in as soon as possible so your manager would have enough time to make a decision. Up here at the top, there's also tabs for trades. You can see if you wanted to pick up a shift, there might be something on the board. Messaging, if you need to send a message or if you want to read something from Jamie or whomever might send it. The staff and their information, who is on currently, bulletins. Here's one from Brenda about this Saturday, an all-team meeting that's happening. And then there's also the help tab. That brings up just different things that can help you, especially if you have email and text notification questions. This is a good place to look. So that's pretty much it for the scheduling software. It's pretty straightforward if you just take some time to look through it when you set up your account. If you have any questions, I would please talk to your manager. They can help you with this at any time. Thank you.
Here is a preview of the mobile version of WhenToWork. This app is free to download for Android and iPhone. Your login information is the same for both desktop and mobile. Once you're logged in, you'll see 3 main tabs at the bottom. We have Dashboard, Menu, and More. So starting with Dashboard, here you'll see your next upcoming shift at the top. Below that, you'll be able to scroll or swipe through a week-by-week calendar to see other upcoming shifts. As a reminder, these are published up to 2 weeks out. You can also select the shift for more details, where you'll also see options to post it to the trade board or check others' availability. But we'll come back to those options. So going back to Dashboard, you can also select the dates on the calendar for more information. Towards the bottom, you have the manager notice that has the dates for all major events for the current year. And lastly, you can view your messages from your manager or coworkers from the dashboard as well. Okay, so moving on to the menu tab. This goes more in depth for all of WhenToWork's key features. So we'll start at the top with schedules, where just like on your desktop, you can view your shift by the day at the top, or by the week, and by the month. And you can also view recent schedule changes and see who's currently on the clock and who will be on later. Okay, next on the main menu list is all you need for trading shifts or seeing what's available to pick up. The first option is for viewing by the month, and the icons are explained at the bottom there. And you can view what others have posted to trade in list form. And then next is where you can post your own shift. And let's go further here to see those steps. So here I can select whether I prefer to trade only, to drop, or to leave it open as optional for other staff members. And then there's room to leave a comment if necessary. And as a reminder, you are responsible for finding a replacement for your shift that has already been published. So going back to the trade list, you can view shifts that have been offered to you specifically. And then you can also view what you've put up to offer. The next section is for time off requests, where you can view requests that are pending and approved. And then let's look at requesting time off. So we have the full day option. And as a reminder, this needs to be requested at least 2 weeks out, and a comment is necessary for this to be approved by your manager. There are exceptions, but those will need to be discussed with your manager in person. So for an example, we will look ahead into May, and we'll go ahead and select the dates, and then input how many days in a row. And for a comment, visiting family out of town. And as another reminder for consecutive day requests, you'll put them all in one time off request. It's not necessary to request each day separately. And then we'll just hit send. And for the partial day option, there's a space to input the start and end time requested, and then if it needs to be repeated additional weeks. So next we have messaging, and it's a little more detailed from what we saw on the dashboard. You can view messages, create new ones, you can check the bulletin board for team notices from your manager. There's option to message your manager directly, and we'll go ahead and glance at the staff list. You can look through here or use the search bar at the top if you need to contact anyone in particular. So the next section is for inputting or updating your work preferences. And this is a little easier to navigate and input on the desktop version, but whatever you prefer, it's the same concept. And if you scroll down, you can choose repeating weekly or a specific date. And at the very bottom, WhenToWork also has a lot of helpful tips and reminders for while you're using the app. You can pause here if you'd like to read over these for a refresher. But we'll go ahead and look at repeating weekly. And just like on the desktop version, you can highlight your preferences, your dislikes, or optional to keep it blank if you don't have a preference for that hour. And then there's also option to edit in quarters. And then the undo option is down here. and just make sure to save. But we're going to go back into repeating weekly to look at setting future repeating preferences. And this is where you would input the specific date that would start. And again, you just make sure to save any changes that you make. And for the rest of this menu list, the staff option is the same list that we saw in the messages section. And then under my info and settings, you can go here to update any account information like your password, your email, phone, or text preferences. Or there's option to sync the schedule with your Google Calendar. And at the very bottom is just another option for contacting your manager for questions. And lastly, under the More tab, the first option is for more account and app preferences. You can actually change the backdrop color of the app.
Wow!
And this is another place you can update your notification preferences. And then contact preferences and your password. So we'll go back. And if you have any questions about the app itself, you can select the help option here. And then under employee help. And here you would need to select the hamburger icon on the top right. And this is where you can scroll through different topics or use the search bar at the top. And at the bottom here, you can see this is where you can sign out. And we went over our main uses for this app, but feel free to explore further for other options or just to get familiar in general with where everything is located.